Hello, my name is David Cavill. I run a website called I Judge Dogs, IJD for short, and a number of our members have asked for some information about the best way of actually going over a dog to make sure that you are covering all the points that you need to see when you're judging. Every judge does it slightly differently. Every judge has a different set of priorities. And that's one of the interesting things about judging dogs, because it is one of the reasons why dogs are often placed differently on different occasions. But the judge needs to know what they're looking for, and they need to understand why they are doing what they're doing, and this is what we're going to try to do. This is Fergus. It will be sensible to have a real dog, but you have your own real dogs, and I think the important thing about this demonstration is to show precisely what your hands should be telling you while you are actually going over a dog. So we'll begin by you approaching the dog in the ring. We hope that the handler has got it set up nicely and that it's still. Certainly Fergus isn't going to move very far. And I find the best way of doing it is first to see the dog from the side so that you can assess its overall balance and shape. Because shape and conformation are one of the key elements of type. It's not just confined to particular characteristics of the head. You look at it from the side, is it balanced? Is it the shape of the breed that you're looking for? Then move around to the right, so you are looking at the dog from the front. You want to see that its legs form two columns of support. They're not too close together. They will be wider apart on some dogs, some breeds such as bull terriers and bulldogs, where the chest is broader, but they should nevertheless travel straight down from the body and as two single column support is the phrase that we use. Then move round the dog and look at it from the back. The same should apply. Sometimes you will have the legs stretched out a bit. So they're wider at the back. This is perfectly in order. The important thing is that they shouldn't be twisted here. The hocks here should neither be in nor out. If they're in, we call them cow-hocked. And although dogs sometimes stand cow-hocked when the handler is trying to really get them to show properly and they crouch back a bit, you have to keep an eye on to make sure that at some stage that single column support goes down from the hips and the pelvis right down to the feet. I then approach the dog from the front, and I usually carry my hand, put my hand out like this so the dog can smell me. I'm now looking at the expression. Now, Fergus' expression, I have to say, is a little blank, but nevertheless every different breed has its own expression and it sums up the characteristics of the breed. So you do need to look at it very carefully. You need to be looking at the eye shape, the way in which the ears are set, the way they hang or they are pricked or tipped depending on the breed. You need to see eye shape. You need to be aware of the way in which the dog's characteristics within the head are put together. I then go over the head itself. I check the bite. I want to see whether it is a scissor bite, whether it is undershot or overshot. I need to check the head. Some dogs are supposed to have a broad, flat head, so my hand checks the width of the skull in that way. I can use the palm of my hand to see whether the skull is rounded at all. I can do the same in this direction, and I can use my fingers, usually in most dogs, to check the proportions of the muzzle and the length of skull. And when you put your hand over the dog's skull like this, you can estimate the depth of its stop, which is here. So the head, when you are going over it, should feel correct for its breed. Some dogs have a longer and narrower muzzle, Belgian Shepherds and Rough Collies for instance. Others it's much shorter, although you have to be sure if the muzzle is short and the skin is wrinkled, you check between the wrinkles to make sure that any wrinkles are not solidified and that they're clean. It's a very important part of the health of the breed. You can then look at the length of neck, and you should also be looking at the set-on of neck. The necks of some dogs come up and look forward. Other dogs' necks are sloped more and they need to be closer to the ground. The shapes are different for every breed. That's what you're looking for. Which relative proportion of neck to body is on the breed that you're looking over. Behind the neck, where the neck moves into the shoulders, you have the withers. This is the area on the top of the back, and this is the area from which you measure the height. It is not the same as the height of the point at the tip of the shoulder here, which in some breeds is sometimes lower than the withers. In some breeds it's actually quite as high, but this is a different position. The withers are here, the point of shoulder is different. I usually go down from the point of shoulder, from I usually go down from the highest point of the shoulder to the point of shoulder here, and then I take my hand down to the point of elbow there, and this gives me this very important angle here, which in many breeds, and the textbooks say, is supposed to be 90 degrees, and in fact Fergus, as you can see from here, is pretty well 90 degrees, it's not far out. But some dogs have got straighter shoulders, some are even more laid back. It depends on the breed as to whether it's right or not. You can then now feel down the leg to the wrist, and I always pick up, can't do it with Fergus, but I always pick up the paw and I have a look at the pads as well. I then put my hand between the front legs to feel the way in which the chest fills out this area here. Some are quite shallow, they go back quite quickly. Others are expected to have a very full chest, almost like a pigeon chest. But you have to feel, without looking and putting your hands there, you can't feel it. You also need to know the depth of the chest here. Most breeds, the chest goes down to about the elbow joint here. Some breeds it's actually intentionally and rightly shallower. A few are deeper, but not very many. Going along the brisket, you can then estimate the dog's tuck up. If it's a dog, when you get to here, you can feel its penis, and if you've got a very heavily coated breed, it's a clue as to whether it's a dog or bitch. Sometimes, although it should be in most breeds quite clear, it isn't always, and that gives you a clue. Run your hand along the dog's back. That spine should be straight. There should be no kinks in it, and the same should apply to the tail, because this is all part of the spine as it goes down to the tail. As you run along here, you come to the croup. That's a vital element of each breed. Some croups are quite straight, others slope much more, and then from the croup you run into the tail, and you should run your fingers down the tail as well to make sure that there are no kinks. I now move round to the back of the dog, because I want to feel its musculature here. If it feels a bit like a dead chicken, it's a bit soggy, it means it's probably not very well muscled. You want those muscles there to feel hard. You can also then begin to measure from the pin bones here at the top of the hip to the point of buttock here to the stifle here. Now that's another important angulation. Again, you can see that as far as Fergus is concerned, it's about a right angle, and that should be the same as the angle this side. It should also be the same as the angle here. They're not always the same, but if those three angles are the same, the dog is more likely to be balanced than not, and it's likely to move more smoothly too. So those are the things you're looking for. If it's a dog, you need to check underneath the pelvis to make sure that it's entire. I hope that's been helpful. Your hands tell you a great deal. If you are looking at a breed such as a Whippet or a Rhodesian Ridgeback or a Dalmatian, very often your hands don't need to do very much. But you still need to check these angles. It's sometimes deceptive. Of course, in a coated breed, don't be afraid to get your hands right underneath the coat so that you really know what you felt and that you have measured the couplings here to make sure that they're not too long. I hope that's been helpful. Thank you. Bye-bye.